What's good, guys? It is Sam here, and today we go unveiling the power rankings. So we're going to answer some of these questions we got here on the screen. What are we ranking? What are the power rankings? How are the power rankings created? Why the power rankings matter? That was really good. And then we're going to just, you guys are probably going to scream at me to just get to the fucking data. So, apologize to all those haters who don't appreciate it when I don't wear a shirt. So, if you want to watch all that, stay tuned. If this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, you had better be pressing that like button. So, let's get into it. What are we ranking? Well, we're ranking the previous 10 candidates that were in the debate in September, and we're stack ranking them to see who is the winner. Now, that was easy. What are the power rankings? And I wrote a little bit down here just so that I could stay on track with this one. Try to keep this in a reasonable amount of time. But the power rankings try to understand what is actually taking place in everyday Americans' lives by watching where they go online and by getting as close as possible to the source of the data to avoid all biases and interpretations along the way. You can't see what I wrote. This idea led me to creating the power rankings. Yeah, so basically, I apologize for just reading that off the screen. The power rankings are just trying to, if you think about polling data, right? You poll, the USA Today, I think, or USA something just came out with their poll, and they might have polled a couple thousand people at most. I couldn't even find it in their article, how many people that were polled. So maybe it was only 600 people. I don't know. And there's 350 million Americans. So it just doesn't seem... I understand statistics. I studied statistics for quite a while. And there's... if you can expand the pool of data you have, the more accurate your estimate becomes. So that is what we're trying to do by describing what the power rankings are. Now, how do we create these? Well, we took these platforms, right? So we stack ranked all the candidates on Google, YouTube, their own websites, Twitter, Facebook, and we stack ranked them. So on every single one of these, we pulled some very objective data, and we took a look at the data for all the candidates on Google, and based on the search volume, we stack ranked them. And then we did that on YouTube, and then we did other factors for their website, other factors for Twitter, Facebook, their actual YouTube channel. Right, that's why we have to subscribe up there, and the donations that they receive. That is a lagged factor because it only comes out once every quarter. But how we took a look at every single one of those factors was the YouTube search volume. This is you go to Google Trends and you can just search for a term to see how it's trended over a period of time. And what we did is we took the past 12 months. 90 days and 30 days. And we did that for the search volume on Google as well as the search volume on YouTube. Then we took a look at every candidate's website. And we took a look at 3 factors on every single website. We took a look at the ranking in the United States, where their site ranks relative to all the other sites in the US. Page views. So the amount of page views per visit per viewer. And I think this is valuable information because if somebody goes to some website and they look at, on average, 1.1 sites or pages per visit, right, then to me that site is not super stimulating to keep people on the site, whether the context is there or the curiosity is there, right? And a lot of times it could just be a poorly designed site too, but I feel like we've ironed out a lot of that, or a bunch of it. And The last one was the amount of time that somebody spends on each website. So we stack ranked them into all those, and we took an average to get an overall ranking of their websites. And then we jumped into social. So on social, what we looked at is the growth rate in their following on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, on their Twitter account, and their Facebook page. As well as there was a piece with it, like something to do with likes on Facebook, something to do with tweets on Twitter, something to do with views on YouTube. So there's a little bit more nuances to these. By the way, if you want to check out the full analysis of any one of these factors, go back to the channel and you can see the ranking for each one of these. So if you're like, oh, that Twitter one sounds kind of interesting, like go back on the channel and look for the Twitter video. It's like 30 minutes long. You can see exactly what I'm doing. You can do the same exact thing, pulling it all just from public sources. And then the last one we did was the donations. This one was interesting, and this will be very interesting when this new data comes out. It's supposed to be reported on the 30th, so I will be updating at that time, so don't forget to subscribe. But what we looked at there was, I think it was 3 factors. We looked at the percentage of total donors that were small donors, and a small donor was defined as people who donated $200 or less. And why do I think that this is relevant is because I think if you've raised $10 million and you've raised it from 10 people and you've raised $1 million from each person, congratulations, you know a lot of people with a lot of money. Right? But if somebody else raised $10 million and they raised it from 7.5 million people, but it was like $1 each, and then, you know, the remainder by like 1 million people was split up for whatever that comes out to be, and they raised also $10 million. I think one has a lot more relevance than the other on a national basis. So that is what we took a look at there, along with the total number of donors and the savings rate. And the savings rate was very interesting. We actually defined having a low savings rate as a good thing because it takes a lot of effort to spend campaign money intelligently to actually get a positive ROI. And I think that happens in the physical world as well as it's a lot easier in the digital world, but there's still a lot of people wasting a lot of money online for ads. So that brings us to, after looking at all those, that brings us to our last part here. And like, why do we do this? Well, originally, I actually was watching YouTube, and Andrew Yang's content came up on there. And I was like, that's weird, because I don't follow politics. I've never actually voted. And I don't read anything about politics. This is at the time. And didn't even slightly pay attention. Most of the time I leaned more Republican. And this guy, Andrew Yang, came up on my YouTube channel, and I watched a little bit of it, and then I watched a couple more to get a better understanding. And I was like, this guy's kind of interesting. Thinks similar to me in some ways about problem solving, it sounds like. And then I was over on Instagram, and I saw in the Explore page something from him. So that made me curious, and that's when I started to dive in to try to understand what was going on. And the polling data from Real Clear Politics that aggregates all the different polls across the country didn't have him even in the top 10, but to show up on my radar, somebody who's way off the beaten path of like society, the way I live my life is completely different than probably you or the vast majority of your friends. You can watch some of the other videos that I've done in the past, but the way I live my life is tremendously different than most people. But it made me very curious because the polling data didn't have him at all. But somebody who's like very eccentric in a lot of things I do, to show up on my radar, that just seems strange to me. Because I don't like that content on any platform. I don't search that type of content. I skip over it if I see it in my news feed. Like, I barely even read headlines in politics before. And now it was coming up on my radar. So I was like, where's this discrepancy happening? Like, I can't see it over here, but how is he possibly showing up on my stuff? So that's what made me curious to look into this. And that was where we came up with these 7 factors. And 5 of the 7 factors are within the top 50 sites on the entire planet. There's a lot of attention on these platforms, and that is exactly why they are factors in our power rankings here. Because there's so much attention there, I think it would be very juvenile to negate any value from that, right? Like, people would think, people don't think that there's any value in looking at this, but when there's so much attention there, it's like, yeah, this is, like, look at the amount of time spent on YouTube or Google to make that site number 1 and number 2 on the planet. That's tremendous. I mean, it's been number 1 in the US for I have no idea how many years. Google has so much attention that they clearly have a better heartbeat or feeling for the heartbeat of America than polling data does, because there's so much more data there. And then the other 2 factors that we use is their website and the donations, and that tells a very interesting story of the psychographic and demographic data just around what is happening with each one of these. So we're almost to the data, I promise. I just wanted to pull this up here so I'm not making it up. We have Wikipedia here, and we have Alexa, which is the site I use for some of the data in the rankings, and SimilarWeb, which is a similar site, no pun intended, to Alexa, where they rank websites based on certain engagement metrics. And in my experience, it seems that SimilarWeb is more heavily weighted to U.S. sites, where Alexa seems more objective from the country specific of where the site was from, but SimilarWeb seems to be biased a little bit. So we have here, right, YouTube and Google is number 1 and 2. We have Facebook, right? This is like number 7 and 3 in terms of their ranking. We come down a little bit further here. Hopefully I didn't miss it. We're looking for, okay, we've got Twitter right here at 6 and 35. And I think there was one more in here somewhere. But anyways, all of them are right in the top there. And let's just get over to the actual page. So the top 3 people that we have here is Andrew Yang, Joe Biden, and Elizabeth Warren. Was that what you were expecting? I don't know how I titled this video yet, but those are the 3 that came out ahead. The next, to round out the top 6, we've got Kamala Harris, Pete, and Joe Biden. But what was really interesting is I did the exact same power ranking, the exact same analysis about 2 weeks ago. So what tells a really interesting story is how these candidates are gaining or losing during the past 2 weeks. So that is very interesting, and we're going to jump into that in just 1 second. But let's take a look up here. So what is this, right? So as I mentioned, we have Google, YouTube, their website ranking, Facebook ranking, Twitter, the channel, and the donations. As the donations I've only done once because the data is quarterly, so I don't have any fresh data to play with yet. And then what are the power rankings? Well, simply here we have the addition of all of their rankings, right? So we're using Pete as an example. So we have, he ranked 5th on Google search, so we have 5 plus 5. And I have no idea why these ones are 5.00. But anyways, plus 4, plus 1, plus 7. Added them all up and divided by 7 to come up with the average. So we did that across the board. And what's interesting here is we see that from 2 weeks ago to today, who actually gained and who lost momentum, right? We have, let's start at the top here. We have Pete losing from 4.86, placing to a 5.14. Andrew Yang did the same, and so did Beto O'Rourke. Kamala Harris moved up a decent amount. She went up 0.86 from her ranking. Amy lost, let's see, Bernie lost, Biden lost. Biden, wait till you see how much he lost. overall. Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren both gained on theirs. Nice for them. And then we have Beto O'Rourke and Julian. One of them. We have Beto who didn't move, and then Julian who did. So this is just simply the difference in these 2 points here. And we see that when we're plotted on the 0 line here, we see that Pete Buttigieg lost 2 spots. Joe Biden also lost 2 spots. So Joe Biden's actually ranked number 6th on our polling, which is kind of interesting. I think I'm going to do a video on him specifically shortly, so make sure you press that subscribe button. We also see that Amy lost a spot, but basically I would expect her to drop out pretty soon, honestly. Like, she's just not doing very well. Probably with Julian too, I would expect, but he might stay in a little bit longer based on what we're seeing. If they dropped off like 10th, 9th type of thing and just went down the line. But I'm not sure exactly if that's going to happen that way or play out that way. We do have Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren gaining 2 spots. I did feel that I could sense that Elizabeth Warren was gaining, but I did not expect Kamala Harris to gain 2 spots. I kind of sensed that Elizabeth Warren was going to move up as I went through this analysis, but I did not expect that with Kamala Harris. So that was a little bit of a surprise to me that she actually gained 2 spots. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on is make sure you press that subscribe button. I'm going to jump over to YouTube, and we're actually going to check out some of my comments live and answer them here. So if you want your comment answered, make sure you leave one below. Probably the more detail, the better, because it's going to be more noticeable. So let's just start here at the top. Here we have Sid Koo. There are also 50 YouTube channels dedicated to Andrew Yang. This is in regards to Andrew Yang YouTube channel ranks #1 on YouTube ranking, right? There are 60 other YouTube channels like yours that talk about Andrew Yang and other subject areas. And more YouTube channels supporting Andrew Yang constantly appear. How many other candidates have this kind of support? Very, very interesting point, right? Because something is happening here that's compelling people to otherwise probably would not have done anything to take action. And it's very interesting to see that this group of, he mentions 50 plus. I have no idea how many channels talk about him, but I do sense that there's probably a large number based on like what I'm seeing to rank this highly. I think you have to have that, and so I see that as being very interesting, and I'm curious to see how this is actually going to play out in the data. I think this is just going to be even more pronounced when we step up to move up to the next debate here. Let's scroll down a little bit and check out this. Okay, I love Excel. This is from Jay, Florida. So I do use Excel in a lot of my videos. I enjoy Excel. Great use of it to tell a story. Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I try for opportunity to get better. So let's go down one more comment right here. Let's go over here. I know this is random, but have you ever done research with SARMs or eSARMs? Okay, so this, I do content around different type of compounds, and that is what Christian is asking about. And the answer is no. I think I've been on the SARMs one site before, but I have not ordered or researched with either one of those products or companies. So if you want to jump out over to Instagram, my link is in the description. Appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for tomorrow's video because I have some interesting stuff coming up.